This video, I'm going to show you the 3 dangerous tricks of the ego that are keeping you trapped in 3D, and I'm going to show you how to push through them so that you don't stay there. Welcome back to another video. My name's Aaron, and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you that of understanding the three tricks of the ego that keep you trapped in the third dimension, understanding more about this metaphor of the 3D to 5D reality, and also understand what the ego does to stay consistent to the way it defines itself, and how this is many times a trap for people. Because many people in general are trapped within the confinements of their ego as their ego. I completely identified with it. Our ego is more of an avatar that we use in this life while we are here. But what happens is when we're born, we forget that we are at a higher level, we are eternal spiritual beings, and then we start to identify with the physical body, which has the 5 senses and interprets reality in a certain way. And because of this identity, we then become trapped within the confinements of what we think reality really is. And we define reality as something that we can tangibly touch, smell, hear, taste. Everything becomes very logical, and it has to be tangible. It has to be something that you can experience from the senses for it to be real. Now, the tricks of the ego is understanding that the ego will do everything it can to stay consistent to the way it defines itself, and everything it can to survive. Now that could be a positive thing in certain ways, because in this reality, our ego helps us to survive. But the thing is there is then the ego that will look to things that aren't a threat to us, but will label it as a threat. Because it's not just survival, it's also the way that we define ourselves. Now, just to give this video a little bit more context, when you think of that of the 3D and 5D, this is the difference between 3D, 4D, 3D, 5D. Third dimension is that of a reality of separation. Many times we'll feel a level of separation. We'll feel a certain level of control. We will feel like we are individual avatars and that everyone else is separate. It's kind of like a dream of separation. In the third dimension, we have that of good, bad, light, dark, up, down, all this duality. And this duality is a part of the third dimension. And we're born into a 3D reality. We forget who we are, and part of the purpose is going through life is waking up to more and more and remembering who we are beyond just that of the 3D physical avatar. But then what happens is we eventually become more aware that we are an eternal spiritual being. That's what people call spiritual awakening. And we realize that beyond just the 3D physical avatar structure, there is then this spiritual dimension to ourselves that you become aware of through meditation, through different meditation practices or practices in general. And the difference between 3D or 4D is that 4D becomes more about understanding vibration. The 4D reality is about understanding that everything in reality is vibration. And the 3D reality would be more so an area of separation, would be more so of time-space experience, where you have to work really hard to do something. There's a lot of belief structures, heavy belief structures there. And in the 4D reality, we become more aware of our heart, more aware of our connection to other people, more aware of synchronicity, becomes more aware of the reality becomes a little bit more like a dream. Whereas in that of the 3D reality, we think everything is so solid and everything is so real. And because everything is so real, it can have for a negative experience because we identify with that experience. So 3D is about going from this level of control. 4D is about going more into our heart, more into understanding our connection, more into understanding vibration. If we want to experience something, we can more so focus on the vibration, and a lot of times following our passion will be something we do more so in the fourth dimension. And when we came to Earth, what we decided we were going to do is to go through this collective shift in consciousness. You can think of it like there's a bubble of many, many people waking up and going through this shift. Some people still in 3D, deep asleep. But it's this shift that we decided to be a part of. And if you're watching this video, then you're one of those people. So this reality is about going from 3D to 4D. And that's cool, okay? It's cool to remember who we are. It's cool to let go of some of the seriousness of the third dimension, the 3D reality. Understanding a little bit more about this ego and how this ego really works. So another way I like to think about this as well, just another metaphor. When you think about that of the chakra system, you have that of the root chakra, right at the pelvic floor. Then you have that of the sacral chakra, represented by orange. It's like kind of where the belly button is. Then you have that of the solar plexus, it's like a little bit above the belly button. And then you have that of the heart, which is the fourth chakra. Heart is green. The willpower is your solar plexus. So in a way, we're going from a dimension of willpower, a dimension of 3D reality, which is in a way also representative of the third chakra. It could also be one of the reasons that in this reality the sun is yellow, and it's called the solar system. We have this solar sun that's represented by this yellow, which is kind of ironic because maybe we perceive the sun that way because we're also in the third dimension. I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of symbolism in reality that's reflective of this simulated experience that we're having. But nonetheless, we have this area where we're going from the 3D reality of control. A lot of things in our life, by the way, have been from a certain level controlled so that we perceive reality in such a way so that we believe this is what's real. Watch the news. This is the way the reality is. Certain level of control that's been happening behind the scenes, and we're becoming more aware of this so that we can take our power back. Now, when we talk about that of the fourth dimension, it's more about your heart, going into your heart, going into being, understanding your connection between all things. That's what we are moving from. We're moving from the 3D reality into a 4D level of perception, which is more about connection, more about vibration, more about understanding life is a dream. So we might as well just have fun and enjoy the dream. Now, the 3 dangerous tricks of your ego that are keeping you in 3D, in the control reality, in that of the identification with the 3D avatar self. One of those 3 dangerous tricks is simply the victim mentality. The victim mentality. The ego may identify with being a victim where in reality things happen to the avatar. And when we develop the perception of having a victim mentality, we then go out into the world and we get more and more reflections of that being the case. And there are times that the ego, as the victim, gets a little emotional high off of it, as weird as that sounds. Because the ego can then say, this is what's happening to me. Sometimes then the ego will get more attention. Sometimes the ego will justify why things happened in the past. But in general, in this 3D reality, believing we are a victim, believing that things are happening to us is one of the biggest tricks of the ego for us not taking back our power. Because we can choose the direction of our life with our choices, but if we believe we're not powerful, we stay in this limbo mode. And that's what's been happening for a very long period of time. Many people have forgotten that they are these eternal spiritual beings, dreaming that they are these 3D little avatar bodies. And many people are deep asleep in that reality, in that understanding. And anytime we believe things are happening to us, we are a leaf in the wind. We are a leaf in the wind that is flying around, can go in any direction. However, when we start to take our power back and realize things do not happen to us, things happen for us, we then transmute all of that energy, making us feel disempowered, and then all that energy makes us feel empowered. I used to believe I was a victim because of a rougher childhood, because of things that I identified with growing up, and I didn't have much power, and I kept getting experiences in my life that reflected back that victim mode. But then what happened is I decided to transform that victimhoodness By reframing the past and seeing that it didn't happen to me, it happened for me, because it led to a spiritual awakening years later. Many people that have been through a lot of pain in the past go through a spiritual awakening, because that pain causes pressure for then people to push out of it. So the key to this is understanding that we aren't a victim. It's understanding more so that things don't happen to us, things happen for us, and we can transmute it and then gain all the power from it. Now, the second dangerous trick of the ego is that the ego likes to stay in survival mode. Threat, fight or flight, fight or flight. Where's the threat? Now, what we are doing, if you've ever studied the book, The Law of One, the Law of One is that of one of the best, most famous channeled materials of all time, written, I think, not written, but in the 70s or the 80s was when it came out. And in it, there is this talk about how now on the planet is a time of what is called harvest, where there is this opportunity for many souls to wake up to who they are. Maybe not everyone wakes up, but many, many, many have the opportunity to. Now, one of the things they said we must do is we must go from just staying in the bottom 3 chakras of the survival mode, the root chakra, the sacral chakra, the solar plexus. We must move from these 3 points into the fourth dimension represented with the heart, the 4th chakra. We have the opportunity in this life to go from the bottom 3 into the 4th. But in order to go into the 4th, we must clear the bottom 3 chakras in order to do so. We must clear the root chakra, which is the need for us to feel safe, shelter. That is the true survival mode. The sacral chakra is our relationship with other people, our relationship with ourselves. Have we healed that? The solar plexus is our willpower, it's our discipline, it's our desires in life. It's, are we doing what we love to be doing? These 3 things, we must be clearing these chakras. It's not that we completely move out of the bottom 3 chakras and are just walking around in our heart. It's that we clear the bottom 3 chakras so we allow this energy to flow through so that we can then be in our heart more. And the ego may be a little bit afraid of going into the heart, a little bit afraid of having to clear out that of the bottom 3 chakras. But the key to this process is we must integrate the bottom 3 chakras, integrate our past, integrate the identities we have, and become emotionally free, and then we can go into the heart. So that's what in the Law of One they talk about, and that's what's necessary for us to really get into this higher level of consciousness. I do have a free webinar that you can join by clicking in the top of the link below. You will see it's on how I healed my painful past, how I integrated my shadow, and how I became emotionally free. That will show you how to go and do through that process. So you watch that. I'll go ahead and link it below. Now, the third dangerous trick of the ego is very insidious. You wouldn't really be aware of this. But the ego's job is not just to survive, it's also to be right. And sometimes to be right is also painful, but we don't realize it because the ego has such a desire to be right. You might say that in reality, people are mean to you. You might have that belief. And then you go out into reality and you perceive of a reality where people are mean to you. But the ego may have this definition that people are mean to you. So the ego, in its need to be right, will look for evidence of that and synchronistically attract situations that reflect that need to be right back. So the need to be right might not be such a good thing, but we're not even aware it's there. I experienced this firsthand when I was in, I think I've shared this once or twice before. When I was in Hawaii, Lior and I were there. We went to Japan, and then we went to Hawaii. And her and I were at this place in Maui. We were eating at this place called Maui Kombucha. It was really good. We were drinking our kombucha. We were doing a little bit of work because they had good Wi-Fi connection. And then we were at a point to where we didn't book our flight coming back to the States because we didn't know when we wanted to come back. But then we decided, it's time to go back. So we get ready to go back. She books her flight. We both find the right flight on like Expedia or whatever we were using. And we decided that going back, we had such a long trip in Japan, we were going to fly first class. So we decided, you know, let's fly first class so we can really relax. So what we did is we get online, we both find the flight, we both go to pay, and both of us go to submit the transaction. Her transaction goes through first. She got her seat ticket at a certain price. I go to do the same thing, and when I did it, out comes, I get this notice that says, sorry, your seat could not be booked. And then I went to go find out why, and it said that I had to, it said that the price then went up like $200 or $300. And the reason the price went up is because since her transaction went through first, my transaction then bumped up the price because then there's more scarcity around that of the first class ticket. And that's how I guess they do the prices. Like the less first class tickets available, the more the price is. So what we should have done is we should have booked it together and just paid each other whatever, you know, whoever paid for it. However, we didn't know that, so I call the airline and I say, listen, this is what happened. We were both paying for the same flight. It now says that I don't have the availability to get the flight. And she then explains what I just shared with like the price goes up, blah, blah, blah. She said she was trying to do something. She did, but she couldn't. She's like, yep, I was like, and I was trying to justify. I was like, I don't want to pay $200, $300 extra just for this. This doesn't make sense, blah, blah, blah. This isn't fair. All of these things. Like, why does she get to pay cheaper than me? We were both booking it at the same time. But I realized that then it was ruining like an hour of my time on this in the middle of Hawaii having an amazing time because of $200 or $300. $200 or $300 isn't a huge deal, but to the ego it was, because the ego has a necessity to be right. So my determination to be right was keeping me from being happy. And that's what the ego does. The moment I realized this was the moment I was actually pretty excited, because I'm like, whoa, I'm going to talk about this in a lot of videos. I'm always going to remember that. The egos need to be right. My ego to say, you know, this price versus this price. It wasn't a huge difference in price, but for some reason I was basing my happiness on it. If both of the tickets from the get-go were that price, I wouldn't have even thought about it. But it's because of the situation of one of us paying less than the other and the transaction of the price going up, and that was what caused the resistance. So the egos need to be right will keep you from being happy. That's one of the tricks of the ego. Give up the need to be right, and over 90% of your life will work for you. Just be with what is. Be aware, be discerning, do what you want, but be aware that you don't have to base your internal happiness on that, of what is happening in the world, trying to control everything, trying to have all these rules. So right now is a time on the planet of us really transcending to this higher level of consciousness. We have the ability to do so. Being aware of the ego is key. This is a 3D avatar meet suit. It is very cool. We can have a lot of fun, but it's not meant to be so serious. So loosen up about it. Relax. Enjoy the ride. Soak in the moment. And you'll see that you enjoy the process and you realize that life is a dream. And therefore you can have more fun in the dream. So with that being said, if you want to follow me on Instagram as well, I post daily content there. Plus, almost every day I do a live Q&A. So if you want a live Q&A, ask me questions, you could do so right here. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the little notification gear so you can see the daily vids that I do. Other than that, as always, peace, much love, and namaste.